everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bree. If you're new here, hi, welcome. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to talk about my November reading wrap-up. So obviously in the month of November, I really tried to focus more on my writing for NaNoWriMo than reading, but I was able to complete a few books, and from what I read, I had a really good reading month. I only actually ended up reading 3 books. One was an ebook, one was a physical book, and one was an audiobook. So I kind of did a variety, but you know, for the most part, 2 of them were pretty short. The audiobook that I listened to was the longest, and that's why it took me the entire month to listen to it. But like I said, from what I read, I had a really good reading month, so let's just jump into those books. I did want to start off with 2 honorable mentions. Though these are 2 books that I tried to start reading in the month of November, and I tried to start reading them pretty early on, but unfortunately, I just wasn't into them. I'm a very big mood reader, and I just, after reading a couple pages, I just decided that wasn't the time for me to read these books, so I put them back down. The first one is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I probably really don't have to explain much about this book because it's huge. Leigh Bardugo is huge. But essentially, it's kind of like an adult thriller fantasy type of thing that deals with these secret societies in Yale and their cultish ways. And there's this main character, Alex, who kind of gets thrown into this. I really didn't read much at all. I think I only read the prologue and maybe chapter 1, if I even got through chapter 1. The beginning is very, very dense, and you can tell that there's a lot happening, and it's one of those novels where you start in one place in the future and then you go back to see how you got there. So there's a lot that's in this book, and like I said, because of how dense it was, I didn't really want to read it while I was writing something on my own. It was just a little bit too much. So I ended up putting this down, and I do want to get back to it. So far, it's not like a DNF completely. I just didn't finish it this month. The second book that is in the similar vein is Living Dead in Dallas by Charlaine Harris, which is the second book in the Sookie Stackhouse series. So I got a little bit farther. I think I got 30-some pages in this book, and I was relatively enjoying it. Just I put it down and then picked something else up and forgot that I started reading this one. So again, not a complete DNF. I'll probably try to finish it either this month or in the new year at some point. But this is just a series I'm taking my time with and enjoying for what they are. I am not rushing into it. So those are the 2 books that I had started to read. I will let you guys know if and when I get to them. And you know, if you guys are interested in any reading blogs for anything that I'm going to mention or would like to read in the future, let me know down below. Maybe I will do a dedicated reading blog. Never done one yet on this channel, but there's always room to improve and try new things. So the first book that I'm going to talk about that I finished in the month of November is an erotic novel called Desperate Measures by Katie Robert. So Desperate Measures was initially pitched to me by another small YouTuber. I watched her video and she was talking about romance novels, and it intrigued me because the premise of this series by Katie Robert is that they are classic Disney heroines and villains mashed up into a kind of sexy time. So I don't read a lot of romance / erotica, and this was very, very adult. There's multiple sex scenes and there's a lot going on. But in the first book, you follow Jasmine and Jafar, and very similar to the Aladdin movie, you have Jasmine, who is kind of under the sultan in this world. He's not really a sultan, he's just a powerful crime mobster. And she's kind of under his protection, and everyone wants her, and everyone wants to kind of be married to her so that they can steal his empire. And Jafar is one of those people who are working for him in the beginning of the book and is trying to undermine the Sultan so that he can marry Jasmine and take over his empire. This is a continuing series with different villains, and all of the villains intermingle. So you also meet Hades and Megara in this book, as well as Tink and Hook. So you know that those are coming in future books. I believe Katie has 2 books in this series out so far, and the other 2 are scheduled for next year. As far as, my thoughts on it, I'm not a very avid reader of erotica, so I don't have a great opinion, but I just enjoyed what I read. It is, as far as trigger warnings go, it is rape fantasy. So I would obviously say if you're very sensitive to rape scenes, I would suggest staying away from this, because even though there is consent and it is known consent, it's kind of that mind game where it's okay, we have a safe word, and if it gets too far, I'm going to use my safe word and you back down. So it is kind of that I'm taking advantage of you, that kind of stuff. There's also like the BDSM kind of culture and the whole dom and submissive. So if you're into that stuff, this might be a good book for you. I didn't mind that, but one of the things for me personally is I'm just really not into that whole like daddy baby concept. Every time she would say daddy in this book, I cringed a little bit inside. But if you could get past that stuff, honestly, I just enjoyed it. So I kind of was intrigued by the whole Disney villain aspect of it, and was interested to see how you could take such beloved classic Disney movies and turn them erotic. And I actually think it was well done. So I'm not going to really rate this book, but if I was, I'd probably give it like a 4-star. It was just enjoyable, and it was really quick. I finished that in like 2 nights, and it was just something that I was kind of rewarding myself with, and completely like mindless fun when I wasn't writing my nano novel earlier in the month. So the second book that I finished in full this month was City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare. This is the final book in the Mortal Instruments series. The City of Bones is the first book, and you follow these shadow hunters as they take on these villains in the book who are trying to use all of the downworlders such as vampires, fae, werewolves, demons, etc. against the shadow hunter and leading an uprising. This is the last book in the series. Honestly, if you have not heard of the series, I don't know how, because it's huge at this point. There's been movies and TV shows and just a huge fandom. So I'm not going to talk about what the premise is. It's pretty easy to look up. But I put this book off most of the year because of how big it was. And then I just decided that I'm going to read it on audiobook. We'll listen to it on audiobook because I don't think I was going to get through this. This series in general is one that I haven't necessarily loved. I actually enjoyed this book. It wasn't too bad, and I think it's because I took a break from it for a little while because I was getting really burnt out with the series. But it's not terrible. It's not my favorite thing I've ever read. I gave this one a 4 stars just because I did kind of enjoy it, and I like to see like how we got to the ending. I was very happy with just how everything wrapped up. I am more intrigued for the second series that she did, The Infernal Devices, and I hear from everyone that it's much better, so I'm really excited because I think I'm going to like that book and those characters much more than I did this. But overall, I gave it a 4 star. It was enjoyable. It got me through many of my commutes for work, and I mean, if you haven't read it, you might as well at this point. It's just one of those books that you probably should read before you die, because otherwise everyone's going to look at you and say, why haven't you read this? And the last book that I read in the month of November was The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. So this is another huge book on BookTube. Essentially, this is the 3rd book of the series and the finale. It started with The Cruel Prince, and you follow the main character, Jude. Her and her sister, Taryn, are living with their mom and dad, and their mom ended up having a relationship with a fairy who they conceived a child with, and when she fled because she no longer wanted to be in fairy with this man, eventually he found them, slaughtered the parents, took his kid back, and decided that, you know, because I killed your family, the least I could do is spare your children. So he ended up taking Taryn and Jude with him as well and raised them all in fairy. Then the plot unfolds really when you're meeting Jude around 16, and, you know, she is a human child in the realm of fairy, and you have all these other fairies plus the one prince of fairy, Carden. And everything kind of unfolds. If I say fairy one more time in this this whole thing, I'm gonna probably puke. But it's a very, I don't know, I think it's really well done, and I really liked how the books led up to this. Now, I will say, this probably isn't my favorite book of the series, but I still just really loved it and how everything came together. I gave this a 5 stars. I know that's probably an unpopular opinion because a lot of people were disappointed with it. I liked the story. I enjoyed where it went and where it ended. I liked that it was kind of happy-ish, or you knew it might have been happy at times. And there was still kind of suspense there for me, enough that I was kind of like, oh, okay, like, what is actually going to happen at times? I don't want to get too many spoilers, but I could definitely see where we had set up so much suspense in the first 2 books of like, is it going to be this way or is it going to be that way? But I understand why people might be upset with this on how it ended up being, you know, very black and white in this book. But I also, for me, understand that because that's what we were leading up to, is to kind of see what side are we falling on. There might have been, I think, you know, if it was a little bit longer, you could have added a little bit more tension in it. But I wouldn't have wanted this book to be like a huge beast in comparison to the first two, because I think it would have been dragged out and I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. So for the enjoyment of the entire series, I gave this a 5 stars. I binged read this in pretty much a day. It ended up being between 2 days, but I spent like an entire day overall reading this because I wanted to finish it so bad. So like I said, I enjoy it. I would recommend the series. And if you want like things that aren't as in-depth but kind of keep you intrigued, I would recommend this. Overall, I read 1 young adult paranormal book, 1 young adult fantasy, and an adult erotica novel. And for the most part, I just enjoyed myself. I had a really good reading month. It was pretty simple and easy, and it was just perfect for what I was doing in the month of November. I had a lot going on with my personal life as well as NaNoWriMo, so I didn't really plan on writing a lot, but I'm happy with what I read. I'm already reading a few new books, and I am absolutely having a wonderful reading month for December. So I can't wait to talk to you guys about what I'm currently reading. And there may or may not be an upcoming vlog. I'm going to decide what I'm going to do just because the year is wrapping up and I have a lot of year-end videos I'm going to start filming and sharing with you guys. But we'll see. Maybe I will do a reading vlog and kind of update you guys more on a personal level. I don't know. Let me know if you're interested in that. If you guys watched my one other vlog I did a couple months ago, if you're interested in a second one, let me know down below. Otherwise, what did you guys read this month? Did you find any of your favorite reads of the year? Did you find any of your least favorite of the year? And, you know, have you read anything new? Also, as always, let me know if you guys read any of the same books that I have read, and let's start a discussion down below. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.